At some point before we retire, the two of us will work out how to do webinars. Okay, are we ready to start? I think we are ready to start. We have a lot of people logged in. My name's Graham Celine, and this is...
I am Trevor Pope.
And welcome to our webinar. I'm going to do a little introduction, then I'll hand off to Trevor. So hello, everyone. My name's Graham Celine. I'm the CoderZ VP of Marketing. I'm happy to welcome you to this interactive session in which all the attendees will understand how easy it is to teach coding through virtual robots. Trevor Pope from the CoderZ team will present how engaging, gamified, and online learning approach allows educators with or without a coding experience to easily engage students of all backgrounds and all levels in programming their very own virtual robot, and at the same time acquiring those essential 21st century STEM skills. So thanks, Trevor, for preparing and hosting this session that I'm pretty sure will be useful to all of you. For those of you that are not familiar with CoderZ and CRCC, let me tell you a bit about us. So CoderZ is an online learning environment that allows students worldwide to learn programming and robotics using virtual robots, both in the classroom, in extracurricular programs, or at home. CoderZ is game-based, and the curriculum and learning tools are designed to make it easy and fun for students to learn technology. CoderZ makes learning STEM, computer science, and robotics inclusive, affordable, and enjoyable for all. You can learn more about CoderZ if you go to our website, gocoderz.com/learn, or by following us on CoderZ on Facebook and Twitter. I want to also just mention the Cyber Robotics Coding Competition, CRCC. The Cyber Robotics Coding Competition is organized by the ICEF Foundation and sponsored by CoderZ. It's an online competitive event where students, classes, and schools compete against each other virtually by coding their robot to complete challenges. To get more information about competing in the CRCC, www.gocoderz.com/compete. A couple of technicalities before we begin. You can add your questions in the question box located in the GoToWebinar panel. Feel free to ask questions. We'll try and answer them all. And definitely at the end of the presentation, Trevor will address as many of those as possible. But let's get started. I'm going to turn off the video so that you can see the slides in full screen. And I'm going to hand off to Trevor to present.
Thank you, Graham. I appreciate it, and thanks for that warm welcome. My objective here today is to teach everybody how easy it is to teach coding in the classroom, how it's never been easier.
One second. Get rid of that. Okay.
Our agenda today is, again, we'll go over the challenges of teaching coding. We'll go over some solutions that our CoderZ programming software provides, and then actually get into CoderZ programming software. I'll get into that software. We'll do some missions. I'll show you guys how it works. I'm Trevor Pope. I am the CoderZ Success Manager, and I want to emphasize that I am not a programmer. I do not write code. I do not have a coding background. I did not go to college for coding. So everything that I've learned has kind of been through my tenure here at on the CoderZ team. You know, learning as I go, learning through the CoderZ programming software. In addition, my objective here on the team, my role is to understand how coding for robotics is taught in your classroom. To work with teachers that use our software, to understand where a science teacher, a math teacher, a STEM teacher who has little to no experience writing code, how you guys need help and support in the classroom, how you can, how you can run a classroom using our CoderZ programming software. So I'm going to start with a quick poll question here. I kind of want to customize this presentation for my audience here. So my first poll question for you guys is essentially I want to learn what your role is. Are you guys a teacher? Are you guys an administrators? Are you guys let me tell me a little bit about kind of how you're using this, whether it's from an administrator role or a or a teacher role, and I'll kind of customize my presentation based on these results here. So I'll open up that poll, leave this open it for a minute or two. And as I'm collecting these responses here, I'm seeing a lot of teachers, some STEM coordinators, a couple of principals. Cool. Cool. Looks like most of you guys are teachers with some STEM and coordinators in there as well. So that's good to see. It's great to see you guys here. So let me get into the challenges of teaching coding. Kind of what I've learned from my outreach talking with teachers in the classroom is number one is there's a lack of student interest. They're not into it. They're middle school kids. They're like, why do I need to learn this? There is limited classroom time to teach coding. You know, where do I fit this into my existing program? There's budgetary constraints, especially at that middle school level. Teacher experience, this is a big problem that I'm seeing, is the teacher does not have that coding knowledge or coding background. And there's a lot of intimidation factors there that prevent them from diving right in. I hear a lot of the students know more than I do, and that goes back to that teacher experience and their background, as well as classroom tools. I don't have the software, I don't have the resources to teach coding in the classroom. Come on. So student interest, you know, students aren't all, every student in your classroom isn't going to be an engineer. You always have the, why am I going to need to learn this this attitude? But coding is necessary. Coding is necessary in being exposed to younger and younger students. You see elementary school kids learning how to click their mouse, learning how to learn Excel, learning how to type. And coding is necessary for that middle school age student that's right in their wheelhouse. We found that text-based coding, getting into a Java or getting into a Python text-based coding language is way too difficult for them. And that's not an engaging enough topic. So how do we solve that? How do we make it interesting for all of the students? And that's with mission-based gamification. Also offer a fun activity with that low entry barrier, whether that's cost, whether that's learning curve, that's going to engage students and get them all involved. Those that will develop an interest, that find it fascinating, will continue. Others will still have that general understanding, where coding is going to be used pretty much in all fields once they get into that workforce. So next slide is I wanted to actually show you how easy this is. This is going to be a quick video of our CoderZ software. Essentially, the simulation is on the right. It's a click and drag based program. It's all walkthroughs and tutorials. As you click next, it automatically will run the program. In this case, the robot, the code told the robot to drive forwards. However, the forward is facing the wrong direction. It is not going towards these batteries and the fuel cells. So what is our solution? The solution is to change the direction. It's the wrong one. So what is our solution to the program here? Do we need to change the direction to forward? Do we need to change the direction to backwards? Do we need to increase our speed? Or do we, I don't know. And the answer is, if you look here, we need to change our direction to backwards. I'm going to hit this video again. Change the direction to backwards, run the simulation. And now the robot goes the correct direction and cuts those fuel cells, hits that target, and look at that instant gratification, confetti pops out, completed the mission. So again, we're teaching the students coding through this click and drag based software, through this intuitive walkthroughs where they're learning as they go. Another problem that we see, where am I going, is classroom time. A lot of teachers don't have that time to where am I going to fit this into my STEM program. The great benefit for using CoderZ is it's a small in-class time commitment. You can do it in the classroom, but it's a web-based solution, an online solution, so students can work in class. They can work from home. They can work in the library, pretty much anywhere they have an internet connection. Students can work independently, or you can have them collaborate in groups or teams. Have the student collaborate in groups of 2, groups of 3, work together to solve missions. and encourage students to work whenever they have free time. And this is kind of a tricky comment, is to encourage students to work together. But what we've learned is the students that are driven by it, that are fascinated by it, they are going to be self-motivated. And they're going to find that free time and say, you know what, I'm going to come in during my lunchtime. I'm going to come in during my study block and complete these activities, complete these missions while I have some free time. So one of the things that I like to see, or as I get out to the opportunity to go and visit schools and visit classrooms, is what I really like to see is student engagement levels. As I walk into a classroom, the students are all engaged. They're all face down into their computers, running the missions, doing their coding. The collaboration involved, where if one student completes a mission that others are stuck on, you see that collaboration and teamwork, where one student will help the other students. It's really a great thing to see how well it fits into the classroom and how engaged each one of the students are. In addition, CoderZ offers various solutions. So you don't have to run this for a full semester. We do have a full semester package, which is this coding robots curriculum on the right-hand side. But we do offer a Cyber Robotics 101 and a Cyber Robotics 102 for more of an abridged program that will last you approximately 3 weeks. It's about 15 hours worth of content. So that will fit into an existing STEM program that you already have. And you can run this kind of, if you're doing hour code, if you're doing other coding things, you can bring this into your semester, use it for 2 or 3 weeks, and then move on to the next activity. These are the various curriculum packages that we offer, and then as you open that up, it's all pack-based learning, mission pack-based learning. This is what we like to call our Netflix or our Hulu or our Disney Plus of missions. So as you open up one of those packs, here you get the individual packs that you're learning, whether it's a navigation pack, whether it's using sensors, whether it's learning loops and repeats. And inside each pack, there's various activities that the students will learn. So again, this is kind of what we call our Netflix of mission. How everything is pack-based. You go through a specific pack and you do the activities in those packs. Budget is a huge problem in middle school. A lot of schools don't have the money to spend, especially for physical or hardware robots. And the comparison here is comparing, if you are going to bring a robotics package into your school, comparing the physical aspect of hardware versus the virtual aspect. So if you do have hardware kits, that hardware is expensive. It's a high cost per student. And we kind of learned that this is kind of an exclusive solution for those kids that want to be in the robotics club. And those are the entitled schools that have, I don't want to say an unlimited budget, but have plenty of budget to spend on a robotic program. And then you get to the problem of inventory control and classroom maintenance and replacement parts, figuring out how to pay for that and how to manage that. With CoderZ, it's all virtual, so there's no hardware required. Every student gets a virtual robot on the screen, no matter if you've got 10, no matter if you've got 100, no matter if you've got 1,000. Every student gets that robot, which brings it to a low cost per student. Online is inclusive. Everybody can participate who you want to participate, whether that's a club, whether that's a class, whether that's the entire grade level, whether that's the entire school, or even the entire district. It's accessible, expandable to students in class or at home. One of the biggest stepping stones I encounter is teacher experience. Again, these are, we're talking to middle school teachers or aren't necessarily a coding teacher. It's a science teacher. It's a math teacher saying, okay, I've now got to teach this coding program. How do I teach it? So we try to make that as easy as possible for teachers, where students self-educate as they go. Each one of the missions has a walkthrough and a guided tutorial that they go through, so they're learning on the screen in front of them rather than a teacher-led classroom. Each one of the mission does have a little tip, as well as we want students to collaborate with peers and work together, work in a group, work as a team. We do have teacher's guides available, which includes tutorials and teaching materials. I'll get into that a little bit later, as well as it's a simple student system for both teachers and students to learn. Once we find that, after I talk to teachers that use it for a semester or two, they're like, Trevor, this is really easy. It's easy for our students to learn. It's easy for me to teach. That's one of the biggest stepping stones that teachers struggle with. And then they realize, you know what, that I can do this. This is easy. Let me get into some of the teacher resources. So I talked about the teacher's guides here. And this is just a short instructor guide, or one of the instructor guide that goes along with the lessons. This lesson talks about the color sensor. This is a quick 5 or 6 slide PowerPoint that I'll go through quickly. So essentially describing the color sensor, how that color sensor works, shows the sample code before it actually directs students to the CoderZ software to do the program activity. So essentially the teacher can leave the classroom and take 10 minutes before class and say, okay, today we're going to learn the color sensor. We're going to do the 10 packs or 10 activities in the sensors pack. This is what you're going to learn today. We'll give you guys a course outline, or a teacher a course outline. There's a glossary of terms. There's various links to YouTube tutorials. There's a whole bunch of support articles in there. And then we also include some post-activity question and answer sessions. So you can kind of assess those students as a group activity and confirm that they've retained the knowledge that you wanted them to obtain during the sessions. Another problem that we see is, the teacher says the students know more than I do. They're on their Fortnite all day. They're playing their Roblox, their Minecraft. The students spend all of their day in front of the computer, know more than I do. Use that to your advantage. We've got a teacher in Florida that kind of flips the classroom around. And when the teacher, I want to say when she gets stuck, but when students are progressing further than she wants them to go, she says, okay, I'm going to have you teach the class today. If you look at this picture on the right-hand side, there's a student behind that teacher desk that's actually teaching this class. The student has completed the activity. A lot of the other students struggled with it. So this student is now teaching the class, showing her solution to the various problem that was given to her, and sharing it with the rest of the students so they can solve the program. We don't expect you teachers to know the answers and to write all of these codes beforehand. We do give you the mission solutions. This is just to the teacher. You can open up the solutions to the various missions, so you can do that as a class activity. Open up the solution, compare the student's code to the solution that's provided to you. As well as every single block in the mission blocks does have a sample code attached to it. So for example, here I'm looking at a code for the ultrasonic sensor. This shows a sample code of how that ultrasonic sensor works. So there's a lot of samples there, resources available to you. So again, a quick overview is CoderZ is a great solution to solve all of those problems that we've encountered that the teachers see. It's self-paced with embedded tutorials and walkthroughs, contains a lot of instructor guides. It allows you as a teacher to pace through various mission packs, contains presentations, mission solutions, links to YouTube videos, knowledge-based articles. It's easy for teachers, it's easy for students. There's plenty of teaching materials provided. So I want to ask my next poll question. Have you guys heard of CoderZ? Have you guys heard of the CRCC, the Cyber Robotics Coding Competition? And we'll throw that poll up there for you. Oh, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. That is great. Awesome. That's good to see. I'm seeing a good ratio of yeses to no's. It's yeses to no's. It's about 50%, and it's good to see some. I'm seeing some answers of people actually using CoderZ in the classroom. So I'm glad you guys are here. Thanks for taking part and participating. All right, let me close this poll here. So essentially the solution is a CoderZ programming software. And I'm going to show you a quick slide of essentially what you're going to see in CoderZ. On the right-hand side is a simulation. The objective here is to code a virtual robot through these challenging gamified missions. You're writing code for this robot on the right-hand side to collect these batteries, collect these green objects along the way, and hit this target. When you hit the target, confetti pops out, well done, and your students move on to the next mission. So it's really rewarding. In the center is our virtual editor for right where our blocks are, and all of our blocks are in these intuitive color-coded commands. So all the motor blocks are in here. These are open up, and then you can click and drag the various blocks into your program. We do have tips, which is this light bulb up at the top center. So if a student does get stuck somewhere along the way, we'll get into those tips and show you guys the tips, or students can see a tip. So I'm thinking it's probably a lot easier for me to dive in and actually take a look at our CoderZ programming software rather than me talk about it through these slides. So I'm actually going to open up CoderZ. So bear with me here as I swap my screen over to CoderZ, and start showing that. So here we go.
This is the CoderZ My Courses screen. This is what you will see as a teacher when you first log into CoderZ, showing you your courses or the courses available to you. All of the activities I'm going to show you today are in this Cyber Robotics 101 course. I'm going to click that and open it up. As you can see, I clicked that. This shows all of the packs available in the Cyber Robotics 101 course. And in each packs, there are various activities in them. So looking at the basic navigation pack, there are 9 activities. Basic navigation 2 has 12 activities. So I'm going to take you through some of these missions, some of these activities in the packs. We're going to start with basic navigation. We'll get into some object detection using the sensors and doing some loops as well. So I'm going to open up this basic navigation pack. Again, here I'm logged in as a teacher account. Students will see very much the same thing. As they go through and as they complete the missions, you'll see a score here on the bottom left-hand side of the missions that are completed, as well as a check mark. The check mark means they've completed the mission. The score here is how many points they've collected along the way to complete that mission. You can see these ones here. There are no points here. There are no check marks. These means that they have not been done. These are the ones I'm going to go through with you guys today to show you how easy coding is. So I'm going to start with mission 1, this power up mission, and show you how CoderZ works, show you how easy it is to code using CoderZ. All right, as you see, as this mission first loads, it comes up with this initial walkthrough that kind of teaching us or showing us what we're going to learn in this mission. It's power up, let's play with power. As I hit next, you can see the drive block here on the left has a power input variable. It controls the robot's motor speed. Currently, this power is set at 20. As I hit next, it's going to ask me to run the simulation. I click that. That's actually to run a simulation, compiles the code. And you see the robot moving very, very slowly here, collecting these fuel cells as it moves along. So the objective here is to learn that 20 power is too slow. We're going to change this value to 100. I'm just using my keyboard keys, the 100, to change that to 100. And we will rerun the simulation and see what happens. Now we're moving a lot faster. That's better. We're making progress, collecting fuel cells along the way and hitting that target. We get that instant gratification of confetti popping out and a congratulations message saying we've completed that. So that's a quick, I'm gonna hit this try again button, a quick overview of the CoderZ software, how quick and easy it is to program. Again, I didn't have to do anything here. I just automatically clicked the next on this walkthrough and learn that the drive power should be 100 and in the forward direction to move forward. On the right-hand side of the screen here, you can see this is our simulation. We were using a Lego EV3 robot. And our objective on all of these simulations is to code the robot collecting these batteries, green objects along the way, and eventually hitting this target that you can kind of see at the far side of the screen there, the target, and that's our objective. These batteries are worth points. They're added to your score. The left-hand side is our coding menu, a simple Blockly menu. You've probably seen in lots of other programmings as well if you've used those. It's a matter of just clicking and dragging. You can see these are kind of grayed out and it's not part of my program. As I click that, bring that over, you'll see that V underneath program start highlight. And as I uncheck or release my mouse button, those pieces snap together. You actually hear a click of that program being snapped together, and that works even for these side pieces here, these accessory pieces to the blocks. Simple as that. All of our commands are in these color-coded menus here on the right-hand side. All of the motor commands, the drive commands are here. Anything to do with sensors are here. Any flow commands, these are our variables, repeat loops, things of that nature. Wait until touch, wait until gyro. Our sensors are in there. Variables, where we can declare variables, setting variables. Any data, any math functions are here. And that is basically it for CoderZ software. Let me get back to their mission center by hitting our CoderZ menu on the left-hand side. You can see I've now completed this mission. It shows my score here on the left. And a check mark that I've completed that mission. So let's go into mission 3 and do backwards and forth, or forth and backwards. As I hit start, it's going to load up the simulation. In this message, the robot most first, you'll notice here is the simulation here. The robot first must drive backwards, collecting all of these fuel cells, and then drive forward to collect the other fuel cells and hit the target. So here we must tell it to drive backwards, and then we must use a wait block for timing, and then we'll do a drive forward block. So here, so we're going to meet the wait for block and use it to control the flow of our program. The drive block here, this is our first drive block. This will drive the robot forwards. As I hit next, there's a wait for 2,000 milliseconds or 2 seconds. That's telling us how long to do this action. So it's going to drive forward for 2 seconds. And then it's going to do our third block here. It's giving me more information on that wait block. And then we are telling the robot to drive power at a power of 0, which is a stop, in a forward direction. So what we're going to do is drive forward for 100% power, 100 power in forward direction for 2 seconds, and then the robot's going to stop. We will see what happens. So you'll notice we didn't actually collect all of the fuel cells here. There's one more. So here we're going to set this wait for a little bit longer. Instead of 2 seconds, we're going to set that for 2.5 seconds. And also we don't want it to stop at the end there. We want to reverse direction. We want to go the opposite direction. So here I'm going to change the drive power to -100. So this will reverse direction now. Again, drive power 100 in the forward direction, collecting the fuel cells this way, and then for 2.5 seconds, and then reverse and go in a negative direction. So it should run perfectly now. Let's see what happens. So yay, we did it. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. It's as simple as that is how to code. Again, really straightforward, really easy. And the CoderZ software teaches you that with the walkthroughs, with those tutorials. So you don't need to figure out what menus I'm looking for, where do I need to find all of this stuff. It's all right there in the tutorials. And as you pay attention, as you learn that, you'll now learn these tasks. You learn how to drive backwards. You've learned how to use this wait block, and then you've learned how to drive forwards. So next is I'm going to go back to the Learning Center here. And now, we learned to drive back, learned to drive forward. So now let's make a turn. Here, as I load this program up, you'll see that the robot is turning the wrong way, or it's facing the wrong direction here. I've got my webinar controls underneath the simulator screen here. I like to move that around. So essentially our robot here is facing a right angle, or facing a kind of a western direction, if you will. And we need to make a turn, so that robot then faces and turns 90 degrees, faces this north direction, collects these full fuel cells, and hit the target. So we're going to make a point turn. The objective of the point turn is to have one wheel being stopped, the other wheel, I guess one wheel is going to be not moving, the other wheel is going to be moving to make our turn, and we'll drive forward. So the point turn keeps that center of robot stationary as the wheels turn in opposite directions. Here we'll set up a drive block with a power of 15 and a steering variable to make the robot turn differently using the steering variable. To make a point turn, our steering variable should be 100. So here, I'm going to stop this. You could see our drive power is at 15. This is a very slow drive power in a forward direction with a steering of 100. So this is going to be our right turn. It's going to do this for 2.3 seconds, and then it's going to drive 100. So this should be our turn, including with this wait for, and then our drive forward. So let's see what happens. You'll see our robot turned, but it'll turned a little too far. It went too far. So what do we need to do? We need to change. To make a 90-degree turn at drive power 15, it should take exactly between 1.5 and 2 seconds. So let me change that to 1750. That's between 1.5 and 2 seconds. On it, good. Let's stop the simulation. I'm going to rerun the simulation. We'll see what happens with this variable. At 1750, there's our turn. Collecting fuel cells, and yay, we did it. We've hit the target. So that's our turn, and essentially this is going to be trial and error for the students. When they go through, they're going to be trying numbers, putting in different variables here to figure this out, but we do give them that information here on what you need in order to do those turns. Does that make sense? Hope so. So let's go back to the Learning Center and do mission 7, this parking right. You guys are ready? A little more challenging part of our code. See here, our objective is to drive forward to find a parking spot for the robot. We're going to drive forward, collecting these fuel cells. We want to avoid this cactus, this prickly object in the way that's going to take away points. Then we're going to want to make a right-hand turn and drive into the parking spot there on the right-hand side here. So we've already been given code that's there, so we'll have to analyze this code, see what happens, and then kind of make adaptations to it. So first, let's look at the code. There's a drive power of 100 in forwards, and wait for 3,000 milliseconds. So this is going to drive forward for 3 seconds. So hopefully they'll be here. We'll see how far we get. Then we have a drive power of 15 with a steering of 100 for 1750. From that last activity we did, we learned that this was our right-hand turn of a drive power 15, steering 100. We figured out this 1750 milliseconds would be that right turn, and then a drive power forward. So again, here we'll drive forward, we'll make our turn, and then we'll drive forward again. Let's see what happens. Driving forward for 3 seconds. There's our turn, and then our drive straight. And we learned that we've hit our objects here. That spot is taken. So what do we need to do to fix it? We need to tweak our code. So let's increase this variable from 3 seconds to 4 seconds and see what happens. We'll run our code. Taking a right-hand turn, and we are in there. We have hit our parking spot. If you notice here, I got this congratulations message, and I've just earned a badge for completing the last mission, the last activity in the Basic Navigation 1 mission. So here, as a student, I've just earned this badge for learning how to drive or doing all those basic navigation missions. Those appear here on the upper right-hand side. You can see this shield icon or badge icon and the number 3. So that's how many badges I've earned along the way here. And as your students progress through, they earn more and more badges. So I'm going to go back to our Cyber Robotics 101. I've done all these basic navigations. I'm going to skip basic navigation 2 and get into object detection. And we will learn a little bit about the touch sensor. I'm going to do this. The wait is over. We're going to wait for the touch sensor. So the robot does have input devices on it called sensors. Why do robots need sensors? These sensors allow the robot to see what is around them by measuring physical quantity, such as a distance away from the wall, a light perhaps on the floor, a light away from an object, the color of the floor, or even a temperature. The robot doesn't have a temperature sensor, but there are temperature sensors that can be allocated. The more sensors the robot has, the more information it can gather from its surroundings. This data can be used in the robot's programming. With sensors, the robot can look at those sensors and use those as feedback and then kind of make informed decisions or calculated decisions based on what is around it, like when to drive forward, when to stop, when to turn, how far to turn, etc. Sometimes we want the robot to continue until something specific has happened. So in this case, we want the robot to drive forward until the touch sensor on the robot has been pressed. And that's the part of this activity. So here we're going to drive forward until we can see or touch that wall in front of us. Once we hit that wall, we're going to then turn right and hit the target there. So here we're going to meet the wait until touch block is pressed. This block will put your code on hold until the touch sensor is either pressed. If the touch sensor is pressed, this value should be true. If the touch sensor is not pressed, this is going to be false. So the wait until touch false is set here. And what do you think is going to happen? We're going to run our code. you'll notice how our robot turned immediately here, and I'm hitting the prickly cactuses and I'm not running the code. So notice the robot turned immediately. It's not what we initially wanted it to do, and that's because our touch sensor was set for false. So we're waiting for this state to be false and then doing the actions after behind it, which is this turn right and then driving forward. We want this to be true. We're going to wait for this sensor to be true, wait till it is pressed, and then we'll run the code. We'll see what happens. So we're going to drive forward. We're waiting for this touch to be true. It hits the wall, makes its turn, hits the target. So that's the objective and our code. I'm going to try again and show you this a little bit better. The robot does have this icon here. Will show a heads-up display, which will show the state of the sensors on the robot. So we've got the sensors of the left motor, the right motor, and coders on there, as well as the state of this touch sensor. Also, if you look at this gamepad or this manual control, this allows you to put this navigation bar here. So as I can manually drive and see the state of those wheel encoders change, and watch this, as I drive forward and hit that wall, the sensor now changes to true. I back that up and it's false. And if I zoom around to the front of the robot here, here's that touch sensor that we're talking about. It's this object here on the front of the robot. It's a little button on the front, so as it hits the wall, that's pressed. Turns true. As it's not pressed, it changes to false. These icons here, they are not headlights, they're not eyeballs. This is an ultrasonic sensor that works like a bat sonar almost. So when one sends out a radar signal, which bounces off of an object and then returns and reads it back and determines the distance, how far away that object is in front of us. This sensor here is a color sensor or line follower sensor. It detects colors or changes of colors in the floor. And then on the back, this sensor here is a gyroscopic sensor. This determines the angle of the robot, and where we can tell it to, it's currently at a 0-degree angle. We can tell it to turn 90 degrees. We can tell it to turn 180 degrees, looking at this gyro sensor and detecting rotation. So those are all sensors on the robot. Currently, they're not shown here in the heads-up display. Typically, those sensors would be seen here, but this is just an introduction to that touch sensor and a preliminary sensor activity, so we don't show the additional sensors on there, but they are, as we get further along in the activities, those will pop up here in the heads-up display. So I'm going to run this again, just to show you here. We can open up this heads-up display. You should. I was too slow, but you should have been able to see that touch sensor change from false to true, and then make the right-hand turn, and it goes back to false. So you can see the state of those sensors and kind of make informed decisions based on those sensors. Here, let's get into mission 6, duplicating blocks. Here, the robot will need to make 2 turns. We're going to duplicate blocks to make the code run faster. So here, let's have a look at this mission. It's very similar to previous missions that we've done, or that wait until touch that we've done. I'm going to skip that here. Got it. So again, here's kind of our mission here, where our objective is to drive forward. We're going to wait till this touch is turned and then to make a right-hand turn. And then we're going to wait till touch again is hit and then making a right-hand turn. So this is a little bit more complicated. We're going to duplicate blocks here to drive forward until we hit that barrier. We're going to turn right. We're going to drive forward again until the robot hits the barrier. We're going to turn right again, and then we're going to drive forward until the robot hits the target. So hopefully you can see how the steps are repeating themselves. We're driving forward, turning right, driving forward, turning right. And again, this is the code that we wrote in our previous mission, that wait until touch mission, where we're driving forward at 100% power. We're going to wait till touch is true. So we're going to drive forward. We're going to wait till the touch is true, hits the wall. We're going to make a right-hand turn, and we're going to drive forward. And there's a turn, there's a drive forward. So what's going to happen here is we're going to stop because we haven't told it to do this again. What we can do is right click. I'm going to hover my mouse over this wait until touched and say duplicate. It's going to duplicate that block. I'm going to add it here. I'm going to right click this, say duplicate, that's our turn. And I'm going to right click that and duplicate and drive forward. So that will allow us to duplicate blocks, copy them, easy as 1, 2, 3, and add them to our program. So now let's rerun this simulation. I'm going to turn on that heads-up display. We can see that change from false to true as it hits the wall. And success. That is pretty easy for us to code. There's an even easier way to do that. Instead of using that duplicate block, I'm actually going to go into our repeat loops, and we'll do this exact same activity using a repeat loop. The objective of this repeat is to repeat code over and over again. So I don't have to duplicate, I don't have to rewrite it over and over again. I can use this repeat loop to repeat the same exact code over and over again. And in that previous mission, for example, we had to drive forward until we hit the barrier, we turned right, and then we drove forward, we hit the barrier, we turned right, etc. So if we duplicated these, that was easy enough, but now there's an easier way. It's done through this repeat loop or repeat block. It makes coding much more efficient, and this can be found in the control flow menu on the left-hand side. So here, the repeat block is here, and I can put code inside this repeat block to make it run multiple times. So we're going to tell it how many times to repeat in this little menu here, and each time it runs is called an iteration, and it's going to run that however many times it says to go. So right now, let's look at our code. We told it to repeat 1 time. It's driving forward, waiting for touch, making our turn, driving forward again. And again, it stopped here at the end because we've only told this to do this 1 time. Let's change this from 1 to 3. And now let's try it now and see what happens. And again, here is our code. Drive forward, wait until touch. You can see as the code is running, that block is kind of highlighted. Make our turn, we'll see the repeat highlight, and then it does the exact loop over again. So that worked great. The robot repeated the same sequence of 3 actions: the drive forward, the wait until touch, then turn right 3 times. And then it stopped facing the target and hitting our target, hitting our success, completing the mission. So pretty straightforward. I'm going to show you something here. Notice, again, this activity here is one we have not completed. Note here, this icon here is this light bulb up at the top is a tips. So it will show you or the student, whoever's running this, a little tip. So if you do get stuck for whatever reason, start to struggle with the mission, you can hit this tip button and get a brief tip of what you need to do. You know, a little hint on how to solve that mission. And sometimes there are more than 1 tips in the mission. As well as only under the teacher account, if I hit this flyout arrow to the right of the mission name and open that up, there's an open solution button here. Students will not have access to this. They will not see this, as again, it's only available to the teacher account. But if you click this and say open solution, this is going to take away all the pre-existing code, and it's going to open up a solution for you to run this specific code. So again, our objective here is to drive forward. We're going to turn right, kind of going around this maze pattern, if you will, turning right. Hitting this wall and then turning left, and then turning right and turning right again. So we're going to kind of make a figure 8, a square figure 8 pattern, if you will. Right now we're in the center of that 8. So here's our repeat 3 times, which is what we just did in the previous activity to drive forward, turn right, drive forward, turn right, drive forward, turn right. Try to do that 3 times. Then we're going to hit this wall here. This is going to be our turn left. And then we're going to turn right again 3 times is our objective here. So let's run that. see what happens. And again, as the teacher, we don't expect you to understand how to code, how to learn how to code throughout this. You certainly can and do it with your students. It's kind of a fun way to try to stay in front of them and learn as they go. But we certainly don't expect you as the teacher to be an expert in coding by any means. So we do give you all of these solutions here. Here, I didn't quite complete the activity. I can try it again and tweak my variables, if you will. Tweak my see if that makes a difference. But that's pretty much it. Straightforward, how easy it is to code. And again, a lot of these missions are kind of walkthroughs where the students are clicking next. Hopefully, they're interpreting and learning things along the way. As teachers, you can walk through. You can do it with them. You can do this as a complete classroom activity by saying, okay, we're going to do some of these drive packs. The basic navigation missions, have the students do some of them on their own. As they struggle or as some of the students get stuck, you can have students running the class, having the students come up and teach in a peer-to-peer network, or you can open up the activity or open up the solution on the whiteboard or on a projector in front of the class, and then do the solution as a classroom activity. So again, really straightforward, really simple, really easy to use. I'm going to get back to, and we'll show you some support tips and kind of where to go next.
All right, so I know I went through that pretty quickly, but I wanted to get through as many CoderZ activities as possible. So hopefully you guys kind of got a concept of how that works and how the programming works, how easy it is to write code. Again, from a student perspective as well as from a teacher's perspective, there are a lot of support resources available to you. There's getting started articles, your first steps, how to set up your classroom, how to run a simulation, how to write code. And I'll get into additional articles for troubleshooting and frequently asked questions. We also have a CoderZ YouTube channel that has a lot of solution files. It's all videos, 2 or 3 minute videos showing, depicting the solutions for a lot of these activities. And let me throw another poll out there for you. Do you guys want to learn, how do I do my poll?
Right. Yeah.
Do you guys want to learn more about CoderZ? So we'll throw that poll question out there. If you do, you guys can go to CoderZ.com, our website, for a 14-day free trial. That is a full-featured trial, so it gives you a teacher account, access to every single mission available in CoderZ. So you'll be able to see everything, our Cyber Robotics 101, our CR 102, and our Coding Robots curriculum. So if you guys do want to learn more, feel free to try or sign up for this 14-day free trial.
Click close.
And let's say close to the poll here. So get back to my slides. I do want to talk about our CRCC. We are launching a spring cyber robotics coding competition. Right now, registration is currently open. That's also just more information is on that GoCoderZ.com website. That will open to students on February 24th. So this is all mission-based activities. We've opened this up to the US. This will be our 3rd year of running the competition. We did a 2018 and 2019, and we'll do a 2020 competition. We've done international competitions in Israel, in Vietnam, in Paraguay, and Africa. We've been in a total of 4 different continents for the CRCC and had a total outreach to over 200,000 students involved in this. So it's great to see those numbers and see the students participate there. But more information can be found on the GoCoderZ.com website. I want to thank you for your time. I'm going to hand it back over to Graham. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to reach out with my email and phone number here. For any sales questions or pricing, you can contact our account manager, Randy Schwartz. Randy's email is listed on the screen there in front of you. I'm going to throw it back to Graham for closing, and he will ask some questions. We'll answer those questions for you.
Thanks, Trevor. That was fantastic. I'm going to leave you on the screen while I read the questions off my laptop. Couple of questions. The first one is, why do you use the EV3 image? Are you connected with them?
Why? So the Lego EV3 image is hugely popular. Almost every single student recognizes it. So students, that's used in first Lego Leagues. It's used in a lot of classrooms. So we did use that image as part of our software. The CoderZ software is compatible with the Lego EV3. So any program you write in CoderZ can be downloaded onto that Lego EV3 brick, and you can actually run the same code on the EV3 hardware that you can in the simulation. So that's why we use that EV3 robot.
Question from Michael Hoist. Our students are not allowed free roaming access to the internet. I can whitelist. How many URLs would I need to do so with?
You need one URL, play.gocoderz.com. That is the website that students use. There's no, everything is run off of that site. So all of our the simulation, the coding is all done on the play.gocoderz.com site.
Thanks. There's a question here from Barbara that I must admit I'm not sure. It says, why is it turning 100 and not 94 degrees?
So we use the steering. So the steering was 100. It wasn't telling it to turn degrees. We were telling it to turn steering, which technically, I'm going to put it in technical terms here. That steering is a ratio of power from one wheel to the other. So there we're applying 100% power to one wheel, 0% power to the other wheel, and that's how we're using that number. It is not an angle. We're not telling it to turn 90 degrees or 100 degrees. It's a power ratio between the two wheels.
Now, what Trevor didn't show you is the gyro sensor. If you use the gyro sensor, then you would use the degree setting, and 90 degrees would be that. Another question, is there a way to abort a mission before it fails?
Yes. So, as you run that mission, you can see it not going the direction you want. You can see it hitting, hitting a wall or hitting some cactus or some negative objects. There is that same button to run the simulation is also stop simulation. So once you hit the run, that turns into a red stop icon. You can hit that icon and stop the mission. Adjust your code as necessary and rerun it. When you do rerun it, it reruns it from the very beginning.
I have registered my students for the spring CRCC.
Awesome.
How do I know which curriculum to use to prepare for this?
That is a great question. So the spring CRCC, it's all mission-based. It's different than our curriculum. Our curriculum is more to, I guess, train the students. However, there are a lot of parallels between our curriculum, essentially with both packages, whether it's our curriculum package or with our CRCC package, we assume no prior knowledge of coding or no prior knowledge of CoderZ. So a lot of the missions are parallel to each other, just to do that basic training, to do that kind of that boot camp aspect. So typically the Cyber Robotics 101, it kind of has those parallel missions. However, if you are using coding robots, that may be beneficial as well, because that teaches the theory, that teaches the engineering, that teaches the practical aspect behind it of how things work. So if you understand the concept of how it works, you can then understand how the missions work.
Are desktops and laptops only used? Can iPads be used?
Desktop and laptops and Chromebooks can be used. Even a Mac can be used. An iPad cannot be used due to the engine behind the simulator. It's not compatible with an iPad. Again, it is compatible with a Mac if you are using Chrome or Edge. It does need to be launched through the Chrome browser, so it has to be Chrome on either Chromebook, desktop PC, or Mac.
Question here from Swapna Deepak. How much does CoderZ package cost? And that's, you've got there for sales. Randy Schwartz is on the slide.
Yep.
Reach out to Randy, because it depends very much on which program, how many students, where you are, all sorts of things like that. So Randy will be able to provide that to you.
Yeah. As Graham said, it depends on the curriculum package that you want. It depends on how many students you have. So, have a conversation with Randy. He can answer all of those questions and give you a per student price for you.
Another good question. May I attend the teacher overview for CRCC without having students involved in the season?
Absolutely. Yeah, the season kicks off on February 24th, or that's when it opens to students. So if we're having that webinar for the CRCC kickoff on Thursday. It's Thursday the 13th at 2:00 p.m. So if you wanted to attend that, you can learn about the Cyber Robotics Coding Competition. You certainly don't need to sign up before that webinar. I mean, you need to sign up for the webinar, but you don't need to sign up for CRCC in order to participate in the webinar and learn more about the coding competition. That will be Graham and I as well. So if you liked us, we'll be there again.
I'm going to be there as well. Okay, I guess I know what I'm doing on Thursday. Well, I want to thank everyone. Many thanks, Trevor, for such an inspiring conversation. Thank you all for attending this webinar and discovering that coding has never been easier. CoderZ was designed for you as teachers, was designed for your students so they can have fun and do this easily. You're going to receive an email with a link to the recording. Share this with your colleagues. We'll also send out the PDF of this presentation so that you can look at that as well. If you like the experience and you want to find out what it's like to teach coding with CoderZ, go to CoderZ.com, CoderZ.com/learn. Sign up for a free trial. Gives you an opportunity to try it out yourself. And we'll be having more STEM seminars in the near future. So keep an eye on your email. Watch our activity on social media, on the social networks. It's CoderZ and CRCC for all, because we'll be really happy to see you at one of the upcoming webinar sessions. So again, thanks very much, Trevor, for a great presentation, for sharing your experience, knowledge, and everything you've learned from all the teachers that you meet. Thanks to all of you for attending. It's been great to having you. And may the code be with you.
Let's do it together. May the code be with you.
Woo!